Yes?
Yes.
All of them?
Yes.
Tell me, why is an accomplished foreign architect shoveling coal here in Philadelphia?
I've loved the way you two have described the origins of this film. I think the word that has been used is exorcism. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that, Brady.
Like all filmmakers, you know, I've struggled to bring all of my films to life. Mona and I had been through a situation about 7 years ago that was particularly brutal, challenging for us, and we wanted to work on something that was about the dynamic between a patron and an artist, which is strangely not a relationship that's explored that frequently. Mona's grandfather is an architect in Norway, and my uncle that I grew up with, he lived with my mother and I. I had a single mother, and I was an only child growing up. And while he was attending Frank Lloyd Wright School at Taliesin West, he lived with us. So I spent a lot of my childhood there. And he's someone that I frequently reach out to when I'm in the middle of a difficult project, because there's a lot in common with building and making a movie. We thought that it would be the perfect subject matter for us to sort of express a lot of our own frustrations about bringing these projects to life. Because the reality of making a movie is that it's usually not like Burden of Dreams. It's or you know, Heart of Darkness. It's much more administrative than that. It's sort of like a frustrating day at the DMV that never ends. And so we thought this would be a little bit more cinematic than our own personal experience.
This film has many pillars, thematic pillars, exploring the American dream, brutalism and its origins. But it's also, on a rewatch, it really struck me a story about a marriage. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your two's way in through that part of the story, which really anchors it, particularly in the finale of it.
I was particularly interested in also portraying a creative partnership and a marriage in a way that I hadn't seen so often before. Usually in these stories about brilliant men at home, there'll be a wife who's frustrated waiting with a cold dinner, and you know, I was just so uninterested in that, and I don't recognize that in many, you know, intellectual couples that I've you know, read about or met. So we wanted to structure it in a way where you really saw that friendship and that partnership between the two of them, and where Erzsébet is as complex as Laszlo. She gains strength throughout the film, and in the end, she speaks for him, and thereafter, so does her niece, and I think that that journey was important for me to explore, to tell.
I want to ask you about VistaVision. This film was a pretty extraordinary technical achievement, and using the technology that we do not see a lot today. I know you've said that it was important to you to make a movie set in the 50s rooted in that kind of technology. I'm wondering, though, what practically you knew that would be like on the ground, and then maybe what you learned about that technology as you made the film.
I think that large format is the past and the future of cinema. But it was shot on a large format camera. It's screening in many places on a large format. And it's something I'm very passionate about. I think it's important that we don't remove the tool from the box. I'm not against digital movie making at all. The end of the film is actually shot on digibeta because it's a camera from the late 1970s. But for me, the difference is as stark as painting with watercolors and painting with oil. And I don't know if everyone realizes how close we've come to losing that option. And it's very, very important that we protect that flame, because it's the best tool we've got, in my not so humble opinion.
Adrien, can you talk to about this extraordinary span of time that you have to chart with this character? It's an incredible arc. There's so much shifts in the physicality and where he is, and so what it was like for you to find that moment to moment, especially because this was a film not made for as much money as you might think, and you really had to make every moment count.
The beauty of collaborating with Brady was that he's extremely communicative and sensitive and conscious of many things beyond the pressures and objectives of his vision as a filmmaker, which is paramount, and this is a director's medium. But he possesses an understanding and a way of communicating that's incredibly inclusive, and the entire cast will echo this sentiment, which is that we were all very present and collectively there making the same work. And it resonates in the film. So much is beautifully depicted in the storytelling, and it's just a matter of everyone being prepared, an understanding of what these arduous days are going to require of us, and showing up. And the preparation paves the way, and the listening and the collaborating with other actors and artists who are also sensitive and complex human beings, and everybody bringing all of that to the table.
Felicity, I'm curious how you just thought about coming into the film, because you loom in quite an interesting way in the first half. We don't see you, but we know you're informing so much of Laszlo's journey. So how did you think about where she was at the beginning of the film, and obviously that extraordinary scene at the end?
It's very unusual that you get the structure of the film to mimic so closely what the central protagonist is going through, which is one of the reasons why I was so entertained and fascinated by the script and the people who had written the script. And that longing and waiting that Laszlo has might have been shared by the audience, which definitely raises the stakes for Erzsébet's arrival in part two. But I have felt that in many ways she haunts that first half. She's there in voice, and you're slowly building an awareness of the roots of this main protagonist. So that when she arrives, what is so intriguing about her is that you register so much of her trauma physically. And actually what's beautiful about it is it's never something that she actually talks about specifically. We just know everything that has happened to her in that moment when she gets out of the train. And then, as Mona said, it is about this woman actually flourishing and strengthening. You know, she's suffering from malnutrition at the beginning, and we see her defiance building throughout that second half as she's reunited with this person that she adores. And also importantly is her niece Zsofia is by her side.
I was thinking, Guy, with Van Buren and the really dark turns we see in the film's final act, I wonder how you put all that together in your head. That last scene where she stands up to him, for instance, and she says he can't even speak. And I think we as viewers are left to wonder exactly where he is in that moment, and how he's reflecting on what's happened before. How did you square that as an actor?
You know, we obviously had a number of conversations, Brady and I know that Felicity and everybody was probably, you know, calling Brady going, I just need to talk about this moment. I just need to, have you got a second? I just want to talk about this. And there's obviously a particular scene in the film that comes out of the blue, which is a fairly confronting abuse that takes place between myself and Adrien. And any confrontation after that was quite sort of natural. It just absolutely made sense. And I loved the idea that, you know, we see Van Buren so sort of present and dominant and kind of even in his sort of charming, lovable way through the film. I love that once he is confronted, once someone actually really does hold something to him, whether it's a mirror or whether it's just an accusation, that on some level he just vanishes. He just kind of becomes nothing, and there's something in that, I think, that sort of speaks to maybe perhaps who he's been this whole time anyway. Yeah. And in this instance, you know, as we show in the film, as Brady and Mona beautifully show in the film, there's nothing. He's gone. There is actually sort of nothing there. It's almost as if he's an apparition. So, you know, so it's a beautiful sort of journey of kind of great stuff, as Felicity says, great stuff to sort of get your teeth into, you know. But it was it was a bit of a process to just try and understand the steps to get to that point.
Brady, then maybe quickly to wrap, where are you actually in the film? I wonder if you could talk a little bit about where you wanted this piece to end.
You know, there's a quote, man's spirit is most exhausted at the peak of its achievement. And I thought that it was very important that in this sequence where there's a retrospective of his work, what we're left with is the path that Laszlo and Erzsébet have forged for their niece. For me, it was very, very clear that's more significant than a body of work. As the father of a 10-year-old, you know, I'm very proud of the work that we do and what we've been able to achieve, but I'm infinitely more proud of her. Thank you so much for coming.
Beautiful note to end on. Thank you all.